Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Uche Odunse, and I am here with the Dokoto Medical Group, and we are here to discuss, as we've been doing for the past few months, about the things that we feel that is necessary for us to know as a community, as individuals, and what we can do to enlighten most of us in the world how to make things better for ourselves and for people around us. So as we all know, COVID-19 has been, dealing with a lot of people, both our family members, friends, well-wishers, and is, affecting everybody in the whole world. So today we have a great presentation from our noble and one and only Dr. Geoffrey Muruku, who is a cardiologist by profession based in Nigeria. So he's going to talk to us today about COVID-19 and how it affects the heart. So we ask you to join us as we go through this presentation today. So Dr. Geoffrey Muruku can go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, depending on where you're participating from. My name, as he said, is Dr. Muruku Geoffrey Chibozo, a cardiologist. So the topic of today is what matters in terms of COVID-19 and the heart. We go further. The outline, I will go further with the following outline. So I have no disclosure to make here. Today, why do we choose this topic? Because COVID-19 is a pandemic and is the greatest threat to public health in centuries. An estimated 1.7 billion people around the world has underlying conditions, including cardiovascular diseases, heart attack, stroke, or they have risk factors for heart attack, like hypertension and diabetes. As we know, that hypertension is the most popular risk factor for heart attack, while diabetes is the most dangerous risk factor for heart attack. Mortality increases by about 11% in hospitalized patients that has cardiovascular diseases. That is why it's very, very important to go about this topic, to talk about it. Africa has other endemics, including TB, HIV. So there was this, opinion by policymakers that Africa could have more COVID, what they term African COVID paradox, because our health system is already stretched by so many other problems, including TB, HIV, malaria, malnutrition. But what is happening now is that even in Africa, the cases are less. But that shouldn't actually be based. It's only based on the fact that we have a more youthful population. And that is only explanation that we can give that, because COVID-19 is real and is everywhere in the world and is actually ravaging and killing people. So as we all know, COVID-19 is a severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS-2, as they call it. The first SARS, which was in 2003, had a mortality of 10%. It was limited to Asia and affected about 8,000 people. While the MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, which was limited to Asia, to Saudi Arabia and 27 other countries, had mortality of 32%. And now we have SARS-2, the second SARS, which started in 2019, December, and has been there, was declared a pandemic. It has a mortality rate of about 2%. As we can, we know here, it's originated from Wuhan in China. It's of zoonotic origin. There was a hypothesis that animal in Wuhan was the source of the infection. but that has not been clear, up to now. Person-to-person transmission is what we are observing at the moment. By August this year, that is today, we have up to 211 million confirmed cases and about 4 million deaths. In 223 countries and territories affected. In Nigeria, we have about 290,000 cases and something above 2,000 deaths that we've recorded here in Nigeria. As we can see, COVID-19 is not as transmissible as other SARS or even the measles. The rate of transmission of measles is up to almost 10 times more transmissible than COVID. But at least, as you all know, measles also already has a vaccine, it has been contained. But COVID, we're still struggling with the acceptability of the vaccine for its control. So it's typically about 4 times more transmissible than influenza. So the real issue today, which is how it affects the heart, is the topic, is where we want to concentrate, to focus on this topic. It affects the heart, as we know, ACE2, which is angiotensin converting enzyme 2 receptor. It's located, the place you find it most is type 2 alveolar cells. And we all know what type 2 alveolar cell does. Is the place that produces secrete surfactant. So that surfactant is something that clears, is the biochemical that clears the fluid secreted by the lungs. So you can imagine that is where this receptor is most found. And also is found in myocardial cells, is found in upper intestinal epithelia, it's found in lungs, it's found in upper intestinal epithelia, kidney. That explains why it's a multi-system disease, because wherever it's found is where the COVID will attach and infiltrate the system. And there is what we call antibody-dependent enhancement that happens, which explains why the cytokine storms comes in and makes patients very ill, respiratory distress, and so on, as we will see in due course. Sorry for it. So how does it affect the myocardium? It causes myocardial injury, which there are so many ways it can affect the myocardium. And I listed up to 5 ways. The most important thing there is that because there's respiratory distress, oxygen is lacking, the myocardium will not work with poor oxygen circulation. So it will affect the myocardium, will be stunted because of poor oxygen delivery to the cells. Also because of that cytokine storm, which we earlier alluded, and also direct SARS, that is the virus, infiltration of that virus to the myocardium, which will lead to myocarditis, sometimes immune-mediated myocarditis, also have been, noticed the altered coagulation factors causing thrombosis, and also because of, what we call broken heart syndrome, which is actually a catecholamine storm. In this case, those people are so stressed up, people that are infected with COVID-19 are so stressed up that they have, stress hormones released very much in the system, and it can also cause a heart attack in a way, and heart dysfunction. Also, the medications used in the treatment of COVID-19 are cardiotoxic, like chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, macrolide. Those things will lead to arrhythmias in the system, and they can cause a sudden cardiac death. Acute clinical CV manifestation related to COVID-19. 3.3% related to causes heart attack, acute heart failure, cardiogenic shock can be seen in about 9 to 17%, myocardial infarction, LV dysfunctions, concomitant biventricular dysfunction, broken heart syndrome, as I said earlier, arrhythmias, and thrombosis that you see in up to 23% of the cases. So there are cases we've seen in China, 2 cases that I want to allude here. One of the cases is an adult man that presents with chest pain, ECG with STEMI, ST elevation, myocardial infarction. Left ventricular function was quite low, 27%. Non-obstructive coronary angiogram was done, so there was no obstruction. When you do biomarkers, there were elevated troponins and NT-proBNP. So the treatment with immunoglobulin and steroid normalized biomarkers and left ventricular ejection fraction in 3 weeks, which actually explains the relationship between the COVID infection and myocarditis and heart attack and all that. It was resolved, treating it the way COVID is treated. So the resolution was fast in 3 weeks. The other case was also a little bit the same thing. This one was a fulminant myocarditis that happened, with ejection fraction of about 32%. Both troponin and proBNP were high, and treatment with extracorporeal membrane oxygenation resolved the problem with also immunoglobulin, steroid, and antiviral therapy. This is a pointer to the fact that COVID-19 affects the heart clearly, and it can be treated the way the virus that causes it is treated, not focusing on the cause this time, on the affectation it has on the heart. So this graph explains the relationship between all those biomarkers and the mortality. You can see from the graph, the highest point, those red, is the patient with a higher NT-proBNP. Those are the biomarkers that tells you that there is a myocarditis, there is a affectation of the myocardium. The same thing applies to cardiac troponin. These are the things you will actually ask for when you're suspecting a heart attack ordinarily. But in these cases, they are elevated in patients with this condition, with this COVID-19, and the mortalities are quite high when you compare to people with normal troponin on admission or at the initial stage. So clinical manifestations of COVID-19 include headache. These ones, we know them. Fever is the most frequent manifestation there, fatigue, chills, nasal congestion, sore throat. There are novel ones like this ageusia, loss of taste and smell, anosmia, and also the post-COVID-19 syndrome, the long COVID, which Dr. Lamino had actually treated earlier. So there are Delta variant that is ravaging the world at the moment, which is, it causes a different pattern of presentation. There's diarrhea, although initially diarrhea was actually seen. The first cases diagnosed in US in those centers came with diarrhea, which is gastrointestinal presentation. So it can also be a presentation that you will see in patients with COVID. So those are the rare presentations that you see. You can see nasal congestions, aching, or muscle aching, vomiting, sore throat. So any of these cases, if you see them, you have to have, everybody has to have a high index of suspicion. It will help you to direct the patient appropriately. So the clinical data about COVID-19, so we can see the people with the most severe cases are seen in ages between 15 and 48. That is from this graph. While the most severe coexisting disorders is usually hypertension. The most severe coexisting disorder is usually hypertension, followed by diabetes. Undefined is so very high, but at least those are the coexisting infections that you see there. And the most frequent symptoms is fever, cough, especially those are the ones that are quite severe. So post-recovery cardiac involvement, which is they've done with cardiac MRI in 1,000 patients. It actually tells you that 78% of the patients that participated in that had cardiac involvement. The only thing is that the degree of involvement is what matters most, because these are the things that would lead you to ICU or other centers that have the capacity to manage. But the most important thing is how severe the involvement is. When it's combined with respiratory distress and all that, it's always lead to ICU. We also could not. It's very unclear the contribution of COVID cardiac involvement to the long COVID that we earlier talked about. So the treatment is very, very, the most important thing in treatment is observing the protocol. Those protocols involve informed and prepared, wear face masks. They are better, they are more effective than even vaccine. If you observe all these things, they are more effective than vaccine, and it takes little. It doesn't have any other, side effect. Maintain social distancing, wash your hands frequently, use alcohol-based hand sanitizer, the cough and sneeze into tissue or your bent elbow, clean and disinfect frequently. So, treatment also, to be more specific, patient that that has a drop in their oxygen saturation will always need a supplemental oxygen. Depending on the level of drop in oxygen saturation, some may even need a mechanical ventilation or extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. The myth about ACE inhibitor system blockade is noticed that since the virus attaches to this receptor, which is ACE, there's possibility of backward enhancement of this receptor if you use ACE inhibitors in patients. But it's noted also that a patient that use these drugs don't have the mortality wasn't different from patients that don't use it. So you don't stop the drug on patients with COVID. Neither do you start it on a patient, that has COVID. It's just that patient that is already on ACE inhibitor, ARB, the RAS system should continue it. The nucleotide analog, which is remdesivir, the drug they actually used it in Ebola, during Ebola pandemic. So they saw that it's also effective with COVID-19. Chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine, the data are not really clear about the benefit of these drugs. And more importantly, this drug causes cardiac toxicity. It causes prolonged QT, can cause arrhythmias. Most of the patients they use this drug, it was suspended because of those side effects. Other drugs you can also use is this interleukin-6 antagonist, which because of those cytokine storm, it's seen that it can counteract the effect of the cytokine storm. But the effectiveness is still in review up to now. The inhaled steroid, those are the ones that are quite effective, and in treating the symptoms the patient presents. Also immunoglobulin, they use it in patients to boost the person's immunity. Also there's a drug they use like the one that has to do with raising the person's immunity, that is the convalescent immunoglobulin. That is patients that have been exposed to the virus, they get immunoglobulins and inject to the patient that has the virus actively, and it has shown some good benefit. They also use, which are not very clear, anti-parasites, macrolides, supplements. Those ones are not really clear, in their benefit to against COVID-19. But what is clear is when your immune system is stronger, it will help in defending you against the virus, which tells us that supplements which can help us, like zinc, those things that help in boosting our immune system, it also may have some benefit in treating the virus, in defending you against the virus. And the meat of the matter, the vaccine has been in circulation. We have so many vaccines. The only problem here is that we have some mild side effects. Even some have been seen to have to cause myocarditis, like Pfizer vaccine, and also thrombotic events like AstraZeneca. But those events pales, in the impact. It's better you get the vaccine than not getting it because of the side effects. Vaccine is still very, very necessary. We use it, and also that the vaccine, the 267 cases have been reported, especially in this Pfizer vaccine, to have caused myocarditis, according to CDC. Vaccine-related myocarditis and pericarditis. But that is little compared to the effect of the virus itself to the heart. Because these cases, these patients, none of them get to even intensive care unit. It's a mild presentations which result, so you can't stop vaccine because of those side effects. So the complication, as we had earlier said, is prolonged QT, which will lead to ventricular fibrillation, ventricular tachycardia, acute coronary syndrome, thromboembolism, and also to note that COVID-19 also can cause systemic hypertension and pulmonary hypertension. They are all sequelae of COVID-19. So someone without even these conditions can come up with, there are so many cases now, under review, people without hypertension or even pulmonary hypertension that came out with the conditions after being exposed to COVID-19. So my conclusion today is that COVID-19 is a pandemic caused by SARS, and the cardiovascular comorbidity are common and with higher morbidity and mortality. Myocardial injury is the most frequent cardiac complications, and ACE2 is a point of entrance to the cell, and especially located more in type 2 alveolar cells. And as we know, the prevention is usually with public health protocols, universal protocols, and also with vaccine. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Nworoku, for that wonderful presentation. I know a lot of people will have some questions, and then we encourage you, if you have any question, go ahead and type it on the Facebook page, and we will present your question to our presenter, Dr. Nworoku. And so, as we can see, he has enlightened us some of the complications that we could see as a result of COVID. And we all know that COVID pretty much affects almost all the systems of the body. But, he dealt especially how it affects the heart, all those things that we see in the heart. It could be, prolongation of the QT, VFib, and all those ventricular tachycardia, and also thromboembolism. So we have one question here. Someone asked, so Dr. Nworoku, it was like, so as a healthcare worker, you've been in the forefront, during the first wave and also this second wave of COVID-19. Okay. So have you encountered any case of myocarditis? And what other advice could you give to doctors working in the isolation centers managing patients with COVID-19, particularly in Nigeria, what to look for or to improve in patient management? So Dr. Nworoku, if you can help us with that.
Yeah, myocarditis is a constellation of symptoms and signs, which you will only say you have myocarditis when you do some certain tests. If you come with those symptoms, which is fatigue, chest pain sometimes, fever, mild fever, we've seen those people. We've seen such cases, but without echocardiogram or CT, what is a cardiac MRI, you won't be able to make a definitive assertion there. You won't be able to make to say the person has a myocarditis. So those are the things, those are the challenges we have here in Nigeria. Most of them come. We've seen them in the ICU, in the isolation centers with such clear symptoms and signs, but we didn't go further to knowing whether they actually have myocarditis. They didn't even do ECG. Those people were managed symptomatically, and they got better. So the advice to us here in Nigeria is that we have high index of suspicion. When you have high index of suspicion, most of those symptoms you will promptly refer them to centers that can take care of them. So that is the first thing, because here people don't even believe that there is COVID. There are so much doubt around us. So, but us as doctors, we have to assume the responsibility of accepting the reality first. This thing exists. You can have these symptoms. You refer them appropriately. If you can't manage it, it's always better managed in isolation centers where adequate provisions and facilities have been provided for. Thank you for your question.
Right. Thank you very much for that response. As we can see, we're still expecting more questions. If you have any questions, feel free to type it on Facebook, and we will relay your question to Dr. Nworoku. So going back to some of the things that you mentioned regarding the most common, symptoms and comorbidities that we see and how it affects the heart. So you pointed something about it affecting more, we see more of hypertension, diabetes, and so on. So what is the risk of, how long do we expect someone with a heart problem to, like the sequel after having COVID-19, do they get better, way better than, how long does it take for them to get back to, almost the normal way of life, pretty much after having COVID symptoms relating to the heart?
Yeah, COVID, as we know, it has its own, incubation period. The acute phase, those are the time where the patient actually is in a corner, in a tight corner that he may need to see a doctor. When you treat, after this acute phase of COVID, that you recover out of maybe isolation center, it's clear that you can still transmit. You can still transmit COVID. Just the same thing that happens when you're vaccinated. But to be on your feet, it depends on actually the length of time you stayed in isolation center. After isolation center and you've pass through the acute phase, the patient can actually, continue. The most important thing is that he has to continue observing those standard protocols of COVID-19, wearing face masks and all that. Because the issue here is not only you, but also to your surroundings, to people around you. Those are the ones you have to also protect. That you suffer COVID-19, you may still suffer it, but it won't be as severe as what you suffered the previous time, but it will be as severe as the one you suffered in previous time to a relative that you actually passed it on. That is why you always continue to maintain those standard protocols. Even us that are people that are vaccinated, you still need to maintain standard protocol. As per when and you will get to your feet, everything depends on your, on your strength. What are the comorbidity you have? What are all the other factors there? But the most important thing is continue the protocol, the standard universal protocol of face masking, frequent washing of hands, and all that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. And no, we all are excited to, having learned from this presentation. And so, as you said, one of the main things that we all have to, keep reaching and, to our patients, our families and friends is the importance of protection, importance of, getting vaccinated, and the importance of knowing that COVID is there. I know you mentioned it earlier, even in Nigeria, most people still feel that there's nothing like COVID, because it's not really affecting a lot of people that they are seeing, or maybe they think it's not doing anything. But we all have to take this serious that is affecting people. And you mentioned something about, you have to do this, you have to get vaccinated and then follow public health standard protocols, because those are the things that will protect us and protect our family members. So, and make us go through this pandemic. And we have to take this serious. So once again, we thank you so much, Dr. Geoffrey Nworoku, for this wonderful presentation. We thank you all for joining us today, and we, encourage you to join us in our subsequent presentations that are coming on in the future. And in the absence of any other questions, we will call it a day for today.